these are Santon dolls, and we're going to go through and tell about each one slowly with a close-up. So, Mom, would you point and tell what the first one is?
This is called the escargot lady. She is selling escargot. Not selling it, she does do that, but she's taking it as her gift to the Christ child. And she puts it in this little paper cornucopia and twists the top, and that's how they present it for sale. This is one of the shepherds. I have shepherds in every size, and he wears the big, heavy wool cape that he puts the lambs under to keep them warm, and he wraps them up in his coat. He stays out in the field for the 3 weeks while they're just during the lambing season, and his body warmth keeps the lamb warm, and the lamb keeps him warm, and so it's a relationship. And the Savior told us many stories about the shepherds. This is a garlic lady, and she's bringing her garlic, and they use that in all French cooking. And she is taking that to the Savior to be used in the bouillabaisse soup, which is from the Provence, so that it can flavor it. And this is just another of the shepherds with his nice warm coat. Oh. These are the bread people, or the ones that run the boulangerie. And he's the baker and the lady that sells it, and they make cakes and bread and pies, tarts. The round cake is particularly important because that's the love cake, and that's only made at Christmas time, and that's to honor the birth of the Savior. The flower lady represents Cannes and Nice and Grasse, and they grow fields and fields of flowers, which they then use to make soap and perfume to send all over the world. The small French villa here is to just show you the difference in the sizes. These little characters are about 1/2 an inch tall, and they represent also the same as all of these others, no matter what size, on what gifts that they can bring to the Christ child in the 1800s. This is my newest one. He's the cobbler, and he is making a pair of shoes, dirty shoes, for Joseph to wear when he walks into Egypt, because he's worn out his shoes going to Bethlehem. Mary has been riding the donkey.
Okay. Can you show the shoe? Yeah.
This part of the equipment is called the last, and that is a very strong piece of metal, and he's put his real leather, which this is made of, on the last and makes the shape of the shoe just that size, and he can hammer nails into that so they won't go through. This shoe has a heel and a sole and real laces. These two are the fish people, the fisherman and his wife who sells the fish. And they generally represent Marseille, and they could be called the Marseillaise people. If he were a fisherman from Bretagne, he would be wearing a yellow sou'wester hat and a big yellow slicker, because it's very cold and very rainy in Bretagne. This lady is bringing vegetables and also a soup mix, a broth, so that she can make some more of this bouillabaisse soup that's very famous in southern France. This is one of our hunters, and he is part of the story that says, "Bye bye bunting, Daddy's gone a-hunting to get a little rabbit skin to wrap the baby bunting in." And they're going to use the skin for warmth and the meat for food. These are the people from the Basque country, and it's forest area, and they are bringing the wood to make fires and to cook with and to heat the place, and those are called bagels. This is another set of fishermen and his wife, the same as this, just a little different size. This is another shepherd, much smaller, with his lamb, probably after it's a little older, so that it doesn't need to be under his cape. This is a small garlic lady, and another of the young men bringing vegetables and milk for the Savior. Another kind of a shepherd, another small shepherd we have here, and the lady is spinning yarn and getting it ready to give to the women who are doing the knitting. This is the moulin, or the mill, where they make flour, and the miller who carries it to the boulangeries where they make the bread. This is the mill that was named after Alphonse Daudet, or the Moulin de Daudet, who was the famous author of children's stories and poetry. And he lived there all his life writing that. We have here a little more detailed shepherd with his sheep under his cape. Can you see it was down? Mm-hmm. This is a soup lady. She has her ladle and some hot soup that she's bringing for the Savior. Mm-hmm. Very detailed. This is the gossip. She's the one that the carver was trying to teach the children how hurtful it is to say bad things about their friends and their neighbors. So he carved a gossip lady, not representing anyone in the village, but just to teach a lesson. And he says how much better it would be to be Christ-like and to do something worthwhile. So when he carved her, he put knitting needles in her hands so that she could learn to knit. And as you notice in this doll carving, her mouth is closed and her hands are working very fast. This is a gypsy. He's from Europe, and they meet every year in southern France in the Camargue area. And he and one of his gypsy friends who trains bears get together and entertain the people. And so they are going to have this bear dancing for the Savior because they know all children love animals. This is the Reveille. He's the most important one in the group because he's the one that announces the birth of the Savior. And he gets up on a mountain and he says, he's here, raising his hands, and then all the villagers know it's time to come and to celebrate the birth of the Savior. When they don't hear the Reveille, they listen to the tambourine player, and he goes throughout the village, not only the city of Aubagne, but all other little villages around in southern France to mention the Savior's here and it's time to come. This is the egg lady. She's bringing eggs so that they can do some of their baking or to just have some nice scrambled eggs with their French bread. This is a hunter. And he is another one that we told a story about bye-bye bunting. Daddy's gone hunting to get the rabbit skin to wrap the baby bunny in. This is another bread lady in a different size, and she also has the Christmas cake or the love cake. This man makes chairs, raffia chairs, and this one's all ready for him to put the seat on. And his present to the Savior is to make a chair for Joseph, who has been standing up all night for the birth of his son. This represents one of the wells in which they got the water for the Savior during his ministry, and also to let us know that water is the staff of life. This young man is sitting near the well to make baskets to carry some of the food that the people bring to the Savior. This is a blind grandfather being brought by his grandson to the Savior to be healed. This is Mauricio. There's a movie made about Mauricio, and it's called Fanny. And he's the man that went out to sea in his sailing vessel, leaving Fanny pregnant. And she later married an old friend of his father's, of her father's, so that she could have this baby and raise it. Mauricio didn't come back for 20 years, and when he did, the old man was dying and told Mauricio this was his son and that Fanny had always loved him and that he was to take care of the two of them. This is one of the small ladies with the black chicken. And it's very important for young children, young babies, to have the broth of a black chicken for nourishment. It's different from a white chicken. This is the man who sharpens knives and tools, and he's getting them ready for Joseph for his carpentry shop. This lady has one of the heating vessels on her head, which won't be there when it has the hot coals in it, but you can actually cook on it, and she has a big kettle on top to cook the soup. This is one of my favorite characters in the story. It's the mother who feels that friendship is the most important thing in her life, and she's bringing her baby to be a friend of Jesus. The umbrella is very significant. It means long life and happiness. And when you see it on an elderly couple, you know it's worked. Many of the young people carry them all the time for good luck also, and they're bringing them to the Savior for the same reason. This is called a guardian. He's riding on one of the white horses that they raise in the Camargue area in southern France. They raise these horses to eat, and they're grazers, meaning that they're not ridden and develop tough muscles. The guardian on his horse, though, just keeps them contented and quiet. This particular guardian or cowboy, as we'd call him, fell in love with the mayor's daughter and wanted to get married, but her father thought that she could do better than a guardian and wasn't sure that that's what he wanted for his daughter. But when he found how much she loved the cowboy, he allowed them to get married and ride off into the sunset. This is Bert. He's the chimney sweep. Many kids like him because he reminds them of Mary Poppins. He was very concerned because there wasn't a chimney in this particular little villa. But they said, your gift to the Savior, Bert, could be your bravery, and you could go up on the roof and repair the tile or fix the roof in any holes or anything to keep it dry and warm. This is the vitrinier, and he carries window glass on his back and tools in his box, and he repairs broken windows. In our particular little villa, there was a hole at the back, and he put a window in it. This is the wash lady. She's very important to the story because she didn't think she had much to give. She goes around and does people's laundry. And then she was told that she had one of the greatest gifts of all because she could keep the linens and clothing clean for the Savior. So she felt that was very important. I like this little service, this lady, and she reminds me of the first diaper service. This is Joseph, and he is standing up in the stable, and this is why he's going to have a chair made for him to sit down on, because he's been standing up all night. Mary and Jesus are next to Joseph, and this is the place that they represent being born in early France in the 1800s in the city of Aubagne. You will notice I don't have the shepherds nor the wise men in my display because I wanted to teach the children and the people who see this display that we can all be santons or little saints year-round and not just at Christmas time. This is the mother goat, and she's very important because all her mistress had to offer was the milk from this goat that she said if Mary doesn't have enough milk for the baby, that goat's milk is much better than cow's milk. He's reading his French newspaper, waiting for the announcement that the Savior's born, and he thinks it's very important for everybody to have a good education and thought that he could be one of the teachers of the Savior. It's quite ironical that Jesus is the most famous and the most perfect teacher of all. And his wife is one of the knitters, making shawls and blankets for the baby and for Mary, and using the yarn that the other little character was spinning. The man sleeping down here missed the announcement that the baby was born, and he was sleeping through it until some of his friends awakened him to let him know that this was too important a day to just be sleeping. This is one of the men who makes wine from grapes, and he was bringing it as a sacrament for the Savior, and they would be using that to bless the baby. This is another milk lady. She has just milked the cows and is bringing the milk in that silver bucket for the baby, or for Mary and Joseph. These are to represent the wood carvings that the carver first made in the village, telling the stories to the children about all the village people. And he would take a block of wood and carve the different people of the village. And as he carved them, he told the story about them to the children. When he finished, he handed one of these to the children, and they'd run home and put it on the mantle, and that would be their keepsake, or their family heirloom. Of the hunter, with his bag that he puts in his rabbits or squirrels or whatever he's been hunting for that day, it also shows that he has his bullets around his waist with his vest. He has his rifle on his back, and he has his rabbit that he hunted this day. The lady next to him is carrying her good luck umbrella, and also the pot that can be used as a campfire because it's copper and it holds hot coals, and they can also cook on it or keep food warm. This lady has a bed warmer. You put hot coals in this and rub it between your sheets, and it makes the bed nice and warm. And she has her candle to find her way to bed. This is another of the winemakers, and he's bringing the wine for the sacrament, for the Savior. These are two more of the people bringing wood from the Basque country. They're called fagos, and they're walking, carrying heavy loads because they want also to do their part to bring something special for the Savior. Let's see what she has there. This is the garlic lady, and as we mentioned earlier, they use lots of garlic in French cooking, and she's going to take that to help make the bouillabaisse soup in her pot, and it will be made of vegetables from this lady, and it has a fish base, tomato base, fish for the meat course. This lady is also carrying her black chicken, and he used vegetables for that also, and that's to make a broth out of for newborn children. That's better for them than a white chicken. And any of the women here that are carrying chicken or that are made for a santon are always carrying the black chicken. Here's another lady carrying her good luck umbrella and her bed warmer, just in a smaller size. We have another winemaker over here, and also another lady who sells fish and has vegetables in her pot and has the scale to weigh the fish to sell them. This is the man that brings the water. That's the staff of life. So with what kind of soup they're making or just to drink or whatever they're using, that's one of the most important ingredients that they can have. We have another bread lady here with her Christmas cake or love cake. Different kind of a basket, but they're all bringing things for the Christ child. These two fishermen represent Marseille, where we lived. And he is dressed like a fisherman from that area because it's very warm, and he can fish pretty much year-round dressed like he is. If he were living in Bretagne on the west coast of Marseille, France, he would be wearing a yellow slicker hat with the yellow heavy oilskin or oilcloth coat to keep the rain and the wind off. The mother here is carrying her scale to weigh the fish that she's going to sell, and she sells it by the pound. On the next step, you want to come back and hear the old story.
The stories are wonderful. Yeah. Well, how does it feel after 2 days done, 2 days yet to
There's
go?
nothing like the finish line, you know? Here we are, 2 days down, and my feet are killing.
Have you counted how many times you've done it?
No, but my voice is still holding up. Fortunately, I can still talk.
Mom, how does your voice feel?
Well, mine's not as good as his, and I go through coughing spells, but I'm so grateful to have him spell me off every other time. I guess the most tired part of me tonight is my back and my feet, and I even wore my black tennies because they give me more arch support than my little flats. But I decided that it's more important that I keep my health than to look darling, and I think that kind of looks like an
Well, it fits
1800
in.
shoe.
Sure,
Doesn't that
it
look like
fits
an
in.
1800 shoe?
Exactly.
And how many people do you think came in today?
815.
Yesterday 600, so they've had over 1,500 thus far.
Yeah, and
2 days.
and this is running about 37% more than it was last year. So
And they always have more people on Sunday and Monday than on these first 2 days.
So, how many presentations do you think you did?
oh, I
I
don't know.
think every 15 minutes.
So maybe 25?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's see. 4 an hour, and we do it for 9 hours. In fact, tonight we did it for 10 hours. Didn't we?
Yeah, and so that might be 30.
And what is the most fun about all this?
Finishing.
No, is it unpacking and packing up, or is it seeing the people's expression, or is it having an audience that is just enthralled?
Well, I like the expressions on the children's faces as we tell them the story about the little Santon dolls. And they're very engrossed, and it's obvious that they're learning, they're absorbing it all, and that's a good feeling.
I like the people that come back year after year because they've learned so much, and many even that have had these dolls and didn't have any idea what the stories were behind them or how it tied into the birth of the Savior. I also like to meet new people, and some from foreign countries. We've had them from Romania and Yugoslavia and France and Germany and Malta down by the
In the Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. Tonight we had a French family, and we had several
English
from
people.
England, and many people have either bought these dolls or been given them, and they didn't really realize how important they were. One lady came up to me today and said she came and heard the stories last year, and when she was unpacking her Christmas things this year, her Christmas decorations, she found a box that said Santones on it. And she quickly opened it and found the little tiny characters, this big, and she said, "I know what these are. I heard the story last year." So she was pretty excited.
Well, I think you've discovered the joy of being storytellers. I hope you continue it.